Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So for this video, I am going to talk about my guiding word for the year and how I've documented that and journaled that out in my Unraveling journal. So every year, I think since like 2014, I've kept a word for the year. So you might know it as your one little word or your guiding word for the year, but it's just a word that you choose to sort of kind of encompass the theme or the overall theme of what you want your year to look like. It can be something that you want to work within yourself, something that you want to work like outward, like it could be an outward word like brave, like to be brave, that's more outward word, whereas like nurture is more like an inner word, but it's something that you want to explore within yourself or about yourself. Your word tends to encompass all of that. So I tend to choose a word for the year in that sense, something that I want to work on or explore more within myself or how I relate to the world, like outside. That's usually how I choose my word. And whenever I choose my word, I always have supporting words, like other words that support my big word. And how I choose those supporting words is that I choose them so that they are also reflective of like things that fall under my word, if that makes sense. But first I want to talk about how to find your word, like how to get a word, how does the word come to you? And for me, it's been like a mixture of two things. Sometimes my word just kind of pops up into my head and I'm just like, oh my god, that should be my word for the year. And then other times I actually have to actively look for a word. And the whole actively looking for the word, what's really helped is going through two workbooks that are completely free that Susannah Conway offers towards the end of each year. One of them is her Unravel Your Year workbook, and I'll leave links to the ones that she shared at the ending of last year because those are for this year, 2021. So Unravel Your Year, it's basically sort of like a reflective workbook on like reflecting on the past year and then planning for the new year. And so I like going through that because it's really insightful when you, especially if you do it every single year. Like I have workbooks filled out since 2013, 2014, and to look back and just see kind of like the progress and the growth. Again, it's that whole the idea of unraveling and like keeping the unraveling journal so you can go back and see how far you've come. But that has been helpful to kind of put into perspective what happened in the previous year and then plan for the forward year. And so my word tends to encompass all those things that I planned for the year coming. And she also offers a kind of like 5-day email thing that she also gives a workbook for called Find Your Word. If you're struggling to find that word, that will be the theme for your year. And so I go through that as well. What I like to do is go through the first half of the Unravel workbook, which is reflecting on the past year, and then go deep into the Find Your Word workbook and choose words that could potentially be my word for the year. And again, sometimes my word just comes to me, like bloom was one of those words that was just like, that's my word for the year. And last year's word was flourish because I didn't want to leave bloom behind. I felt like I can still use that word, and so I evolved it into flourish because you bloom, you're a bud that blooms and then you flourish. So that was my way of thinking. And so sometimes my word comes to me and then sometimes it doesn't. For this year, my word is actually a phrase. It's a gentle unfurling, which, like I explained before, was something that came up in a comment from Seuss, and it just kind of stuck with me and it resonated with me, and I knew when I started working on my creative self-portrait project that I wanted to use that as my word. So it's a phrase, gentle unfurling. And so that word though, what the core of it, the core theme of what I want my year to be is to unfurl, to be spread open, to unravel. And so I'm using that as the word that's encompassing, or the phrase, because it's a phrase, that's encompassing my entire year. But then I went through Susannah's workbook, the Find Your Word workbook, to find my supporting words. Because every year, whenever I go through the workbook, there is always a word that it ends up being my word. But then there's always words that are kind of similar that are like close contenders to my word. And sometimes I use those words as supporting words. And how I use the supporting words is that each supporting word represents an aspect of my life that I want to work on. So for example, I have my Unraveling journal here from 2019 and 2020, and so I'm just gonna go in and look at what I wrote for 2019. So my word for 2019 was bloom, and my supporting words, I had 4 of them, and they were create, inspire, cultivate, and engage. So if we can see that, I did a little chart in my journal to show my word and then the supporting word. And obviously these specifically aren't related to the word bloom, because obviously cultivate, yes, but create, inspire, and engage are not really. But they were related to my word in the sense that each represented something that I wanted to work on that fell under the entire theme of my word for the year. And so I had wrote here, I chose bloom as my guiding word for the year because it encompassed everything I want to take action on and become. And then I wrote, I want to grow as an artist and as a person as I unravel all that's hidden inside of me. As Sus kindly put it, a gentle unfurling. So even here, that a gentle unfurling bit has been like prominent. I want to open up to new people and experience. I want to flourish. And like all flowers, I want to cultivate an inspiring community and actually engage in that community. And so that's where the create, inspire, cultivate, and engage come from. And then I broke it down. I want to create every day. So that was where create fell under my word. I want to inspire others and be inspired. That's where inspire comes from. I want to cultivate the community, and I want to engage with that community and hone in on my tribe of like-minded people. And so in 2019, that is what I wanted to do, and that's what the word bloom kind of encompassed for me, were those 4 other words. For flourish, since I was using flourish, it was kind of a continuation of the word bloom. I believe I did choose some supporting words there, and I'm just looking in my journal to see what I did. Yeah, okay, so for flourish, that was my word. That was what encompassed my entire theme of my year. And then the supporting words that I used were be bold, evolve, thrive, and inspire. So I used inspire again. And then of course, each of those words meant something different. So this is how that looks. I don't know if you're in frame. That's how that page ended up looking. And so since flourish is the overall theme, the overall word for the year, I like to describe and break down the supporting words or phrases to kind of place them where I need them to be for my year. And so be bold was, what did I write here? I wrote, I want to be bold and jump into new things. And then I elaborated some more on that, but that was basically it. I wanted to be bold. I wanted to try new things. And then the next word is evolve. So from that exploration of finding new things and being bold, I wanted to explore my creativity and try some new things in that aspect and to see where I grow from that. And then thrive. So be bold is trying new things, then evolve is evolving on those new things and new experiences that you had, and then thrive is to, prosper. But I specifically wrote here, thrive on positivity. So I believe this was the year that I kind of wanted to cultivate a positive mindset, and so that's what thrive for me represented. And then the last one was inspire. And that was just to continue creating and inspiring others. And so I kind of pull that from the bloom to the flourish. And so that's how I choose my words. Sometimes my word comes to me, or sometimes I have to work through the workbook that I'm going to link down below to find that word. But that's how I choose my word, and that's how I choose the supporting words, and that's how I use my word and how I journal about it in my journal. Is like trying to break them down into little kind of sections of my life or things that I want to accomplish or intend to accomplish within the year. And so that little spiel about finding your word and how I find my word and go about the whole thing, that leads me to my word for the year, which is the phrase, a gentle unfurling, and to the pages that I did. So I did my little spread here using the Felicity Jane kits. I did a mixture of the current Crystal kit and the Amanda kit, which was a previous kit. And the Amanda kit had these lovely library cards, and the colors match really well with the Crystal papers, and so I used a mixture of the Crystal papers and the Amanda papers, and I created a little kind of like side pocket, and the pocket ended up holding 4 library cards, and the library cards is where I went and did my journaling. And so for this year, my word or my phrase for the year is a gentle unfurling, and I have 3 supporting words, and my words are unraveling, exploring, and becoming, and each of those mean something different. So I really simplified my word and my supporting words this year because I kind of wanted to slow down a bit and not, I guess, slow down and like work on myself. So all of this is very inner, and that's something that Susannah Conway talks about in the workbook, in the Find Your Word workbook, is if you need a passive word or if you need an active word. If you need to, is it something that's inward that you need to work on, or is there something that's outward that you need to work on? And I felt like since we were all very slowed down and going to be home and all this stuff, that I should work inner. So I took it inner, and so I kind of thought of words and things that I want to work on inside, and that's how I broke down my words. And so again, my word is a gentle unfurling, and my supporting words are unraveling, exploring, and becoming. And so what I did was I created this pocket, and I cut down that wood grain paper from the Crystal kit, and then I cut down 2 other pattern papers on different widths so that I can layer them on top of each other and create like a tiered pocket for the library cards to fit into. And so I just basically cut down my papers, and then I stacked them on top of each other, and then I ran my sewing machine. First I did like the first layer first and did the pocket there, and then I kind of used a little bit of double-sided tape to tape down that cluster pocket to create the second pocket, and then I ran that through my sewing machine to stitch up the sides because I didn't want my library cards to sink in deep into that top pocket, and so the tape helps stops it from like sinking in. And so very quick, very simple to make the pocket, and I just have 4 of the library cards tucked into that pocket. For the pocket, I actually ripped up some book page, like a book page, and I layered it on the top because I did mess up on my stitching there on the pocket, and so I kind of wanted to cover that, and I knew that I was going to put my title there eventually. On the opposite page, I just did a really quick collage, like a layered collage using some of the pattern papers from Felicity Jane that I ripped up because I used some of that ripped up book page. And so I just kind of layered them haphazardly like that, and then I added another one of the charms. This one says love, again with that same twine, and of course I added all of my lines to the page so I can do some journaling. So for the library cards, what I did was I used cards in like coordinating colors, and I have a card for basically each of my supporting words, and then I did make a list of intentions of like substantial goals that I kind of wanted to do or get accomplished this year, and so I've listed them on that fourth card. But I basically just used a tab. I fuzzy cut these tabs from a paper from the Amanda kit, and I just kind of coordinated them with what colored card worked best. And some of the cards I embellished with one of the Felicity Jane charms that came in the crystal kit, and some of this, it's kind of like a goldish kind of twine that came in the cocoa kit actually, and I just kind of punched a hole and tied the little charm to some of the cards, and on the other cards I just embellished with a little puffy sticker there. And so that was my pocket. My pocket was really simple. On top of the pocket, I used the alphas and I spelled out words, and then in the tiny little mini alphas that I like, I put my. So on my card pocket, it says my words on it. And so I want to quickly just talk about the journaling. On the library cards, on the tabs on the top, I wrote down each supporting word, and then I wrote on the card what each of those supporting words represent. And so the first word is unraveling, and I wrote something about how unraveling is the main focus of a gentle unfurling. It's the process of just getting to know myself, and that's what I want for the most part this year to be, is just kind of that inner excavation into just learning more about myself. So unraveling is very important. The next word I used was exploring, and this goes hand in hand with the unraveling process. It's just exploring myself, exploring my limits. That's what I journaled about, was because, you know, we all have limits and we all kind of are self-contained in like what our comfort is, and sometimes you can't grow from being where you're comfortable. And so I want to kind of explore and kind of push myself a little more, kind of get out of my comfort zone, so, you know, so that I can know more things, so I kind of can explore how much I'm capable of and how much I can handle. And so that's what exploring is to me with my word. And then the last one is becoming, and this one is more of a shorter reason for it. So becoming is the end stage. It's the last bit. It's becoming who you are after you go through the unraveling process, after you go through the exploring process and see what works and see what doesn't work for you, what you become at the end of it. And so I liked that idea that that whole end goal for my year is the becoming, of just kind of seeing who I become, what it is that I unfurled and, you know, blossomed into. And so that is becoming. And then of course on the last card, I just journaled about my intentions, and these are just substantial goals. These are the type of things that most people, you know, New Year's resolution type things, which are just read more books, get outside more, do more artist dates, and spend less on things that I don't need. Because I spend a lot of money on things that I don't need. I spend a lot of time on things that aren't really worth much in the long run, and I kind of want to stop doing that and just be more mindful of how I spend my money and how I spend my time. So on the page here that I just did that paper collage, I just wrote about my word, like a gentle unfurling, and what that means as a whole and how that encompasses what I intend for the year. You know, so that's the theme. That's the theme of my year. And so a gentle unfurling represents that. And so that's how I broke down my word. And that is how I put these pages together. I actually really, really like how simple and how quick this ended up being, because I tend to go on and on about my word, and in my previous Unraveling journal I had pages and tuck spots and list of books that I wanted to read that related to the word and like all these different things. This year I kept it really simple. I kept it very slimmed down because I really want the focus to be on the process of unraveling. And so everything is just really, really slimmed. And so yeah, this page came out really quickly. I really like the interactive elements of the library cards in the pockets. I love that. And I love how, since I'm doing a deconstructed journal, that I can have those bits, and then I have the dimensional pieces of the charms and everything. It just makes me so happy that, you know, when I flip to that page, I'll have just the substantial stuff, the pulling things out of the pockets, and the texture of the metal charms and the twine and everything. It's really nice. So anyway, that is my guiding word for the year, and that's how I've journaled about it in my Unraveling journal. I really hope that this was informative and that it was clear on how I find a word and some useful tools that I use to kind of not only just find my word for the year, but sort of flesh it out. Because if you do that workbook, you'll know there's going to be words that are very similar to each other that you're gravitating towards, that you're trying to figure out which one to do. I tend to just use both. Have one that I find that encompasses everything, and then use the ones that I were kind of contemplating as supporting words. It's really helpful to have just that big word and then all those little words that you break down into certain aspects of your life. At least that's, for me, how I use it and how it's been working for me. So yeah, I will leave the links down below to both of those Susannah Conway workbooks. They're completely free and you can just get them on her site. They're super, super useful, and she releases them every single year, like in December, so that you can prepare for the new year ahead. So I will leave the links in the description box, and yeah, I would also leave a link to my Felicity Jane post. So I actually did these pages for a Felicity Jane project, and I'll leave a link to the blog post there if you want to look at the photos of my pages more in depth. I know a lot of you like to read my journaling, so I'm pretty sure one of them you can read there. But yeah, I'll leave that link in the description box down below as well. And yeah, I really hope this was useful. I hope these Unraveling journal videos were helpful for you to get an idea of how I start off my journal and how I use it moving forward. I may come in here and there to do like a journal with me in my Unraveling journal, I don't know, but these were the first few videos that I knew that I wanted to share with you, so that you can get a better picture on how I set up the journal and how I will use it to sort of document my year and like my whole inner excavation and exploration of myself. So I really hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye!